OP, serious. What's your ghost story? My dad's story, not mine. Early 1980s, he is working a summer job at Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. One day, he and his friend, Mark, hiked up to the top of one of the mountains. They set up their tent inside an Indian pit, a man-made hole dug out by Native Americans hundreds of years ago. The Indian pits were either used as hunting blinds or spots where young braves came to for their vision quest. Late in the night, my dad wakes up and has to use the bathroom, number one. He crawled out of the tent, out of the pit, and went walking a respectable distance away from the tent. Suddenly, he felt a hand on his shoulder pull him backwards. My dad calls out, "Hey Mark, what are you doing?" He turns around, turns on his flashlight, and there is nobody there. He shines the light at his feet and discovers that his next couple of steps would have taken him directly over a steep cliff. He did his business and hurried back to the tent. The next morning, the two friends are waking up, and his buddy says to him, "I know this sounds crazy, but I woke up in the middle of the night, and I swear to you, there was an Indian man standing outside our tent." Whatever really happened that night, my dad is alive. He met my mom at Yellowstone, and here I am writing this story to you today. This isn't really scary at all, and maybe not what OP is looking for, but honestly even the story is normal, yet far-fetched to me, but it makes sense considering my mom's cultural background. I'm Cambodian American, born and raised in America, never been to Cambodia. This takes place in California. My mum believes in good spirits and getting blessings for good luck and protection by putting out food offerings for them on our dining table. My mum does this for special days, and after she's done with her prayers, that's when anyone can eat the food. She usually does it in the morning, and then by the afternoon, that's when the food is free for the taking. So it's a typical afternoon. I was online on my laptop in my room, and I got hungry. My room was connected to a small hallway, and at the end of the hallway is the living room and the dining table. So I opened my door and stepped out into the hallway, and I saw something on top of the table, eating. It was hard to make out at first because I'm nearsighted, and this thing was kinda transparent. I got closer and stopped halfway through the hallway, and I realised there was a literal transparent brown monkey on the table. It was making motions as if it was eating some of the fruit offerings. It didn't notice me yet, and in my disbelief I got even closer, but when I stopped in my tracks again, right at the end of the hallway, it noticed me and got startled. I'm startled, the monkey's startled. I'm just standing there and not believing my eyes. Very quickly, this transparent monkey just jumps off the table and ambles off hastily towards the exit, where the outer door is locked. That's it. I just stood there staring at the door where it fled, and I'm just like, wow, I can't really believe what I just saw. In American horror movies and scary stories, there's hardly anything about ghost monkeys. I don't consume that kind of content. And ghost monkey? Who the funk it? Anyway, later on I told my mom about what I saw, and she didn't even blink. I might as well have told her that the sky is blue, I'm her daughter, etc. She really believes in spirits that much, and didn't doubt my story at all. Also, years later I told one of my co-workers, who is also Cambodian around my age, speaks fluently, and has also been to Cambodia, about my experience. He said that there's a lot of monkeys in Cambodia. I didn't know this at all, and have never seen a monkey IRL. My mum doesn't talk about monkeys and owns nothing related to monkeys. So that's my story. Neither me nor a ghost monkey expected to be spooked that day. LOL. When I was in 5th grade, once I forgot to put my school uniform in the laundry basket. So the next day I need it for school, it was dirty. I went to have breakfast in my pyjamas while I was thinking how to tell my mum I didn't have my uniform clean. When I came back to my room, there was a woman I've never seen before, in her 40s, brown dress, dark hair, ironing my uniform. I blinked and she was gone. I would have assumed I hallucinated the whole thing, but my uniform was there, clean, dried and ironed and ready for me to use. And it couldn't have been ironed by anyone else because my parents had breakfast with me and my sister was a baby. From the time I was about 12 to 17 years old, I lived in what I believed was a haunted house. I've never had experiences like I had in that house since moving out. A few specific memories come to mind. Once, I was hanging up laundry in my closet. I heard someone whisper my name in my ear, clear as day. I'd never sprinted out of a room so fast. Another time, my sister and I had friends over and we decided to use a tape recorder to ask questions to the ghost, like they do on those paranormal shows. We played the tape not expecting to hear anything, and could hear a very soft voice say, "I'm in the closet." We were sitting near a small closet in the basement. My parents eventually decided to sell the house. We moved into a new place before selling this place. My sister stopped by the house after there had been a couple of showings to turn out the lights in the house. She went to turn off the lights in the basement, which had multiple light switches. One was at the far end of the basement away from the stairs. She turned off the light and swears she heard heavy footfalls of someone running towards her. She ran out of the house without turning out the rest of the lights and locked the door. That was the last time either of us went back until we were in the neighbourhood and the new owners offered to show us the renovations they made. Nothing happened then, but they did ask us if we want to babysit their kids. We politely declined. Similar experience for me in that my childhood home was very haunted, but after moving out of that place, I have had virtually no paranormal experiences at all. None for at least a good 15 years now. Some of the things that happened at that house. 1. Old man ghost walking down the corridor. Was seen by at least 5 people, including myself over the years. 2. Crying baby ghost in a bedroom. Heard by many but never seen. 3. Distressed lady in a nightgown holding a crying baby at the top of the landing. Seen by one of my brother's friends. 4. Shadow of a lady in a nightgown whisking past the landing. 5. Ghost of a lady in a nightgown in the garden in the early hours. 6. Strange lights in the cellar. 7. Got pushed down the cellar stairs by nobody. 8. The rustle and swish of garments and the sound of footsteps as somebody wandered around the house at night. Heard by many to the present day, including my brother's girlfriend, who has since refused to ever spend a night at the house again. 9. General gripping sense of unexplainable dread and terror sometimes as you enter some rooms. 10. Dogs apparently seeing ghosts and getting very upset by them, growling, barking and then shaking. 11. Unexplained smells. Rooms suddenly flooded with the scent of strong perfume, which then disappears without trace. 12. Chairs and other furniture sometimes moved around at night. 13. The sound of a car dramatically pulling up on the gravel driveway at night, only for no car to be seen. One time, my nanny, a strict no-nonsense, East Side, former GDR German lady, was standing by my bedroom window when it happened, and she peeked through the curtains to see who it was, and I saw her freeze. When I asked her what she had seen, she turned her face to me, and she looked totally terrified, white as a sheet, and refused to tell me what she had seen. One time I was by the window myself when it happened, and I saw what I swear was my father's car sitting there in the driveway. But my dad had died many years ago, and there was no one in the car, and when I stepped away from the window for a moment and looked back, The car was gone. 14. Some sort of entity in a field at night, which completely freaked the dogs. 2 guard dogs I was walking. The creature was following us, was not afraid of us, and had eyes like nothing that I had seen before. I wondered if I saw a big escaped cat, like a panther, but I had no idea. It certainly terrified the dogs though. I live in England, and months later, my brother got stalked by the same animal along the same stretch of tracks at night and had to run back home, etc. Also, while paranormal activity in the house would sometimes go through very quiet periods, if you altered anything about the house's structure or appearance, it would upset the ghosts a lot and send paranormal activity through the roof. The worst time was when my mum wanted to do a load of extension work to the house, lots of knocking through walls. We found some pretty freaky stuff, lots of old superstitious witchcraft stuff, such as the remains of sacrificed cats in bricked up walls and fireplaces, left shoes buried under door frames, apparently stops evil setting a foot in the house, pagan/Christian carpentry marks, the interlocking double V symbols of the Virgin Mary, etc. There was also a lot of evidence of witchcraft in the broader area. I once even found a silver bullet when I was a kid that was at least a few hundred years old, which was very rural and isolated. Scattered tiny villages, lots of farmland, very agricultural based economies even at the turn of the 20th century. Virtually no light pollution at night, many people living alone by themselves or in small families on isolated farms. The paranormal activity scared me a lot, but my mum was for the most part pretty brave in the face of it. Her policy was largely just to ignore it. I was told a few chants to tell ghosts to get them to calm down if things got bad, but every now and then things would get very bad in the house, and so the local vicar would be called in to perform an exorcism. Quite something to see in real life. The vicar wore special regalia and brought apprentices with him, lots of special prayers, shaking around of holy water and incense, etc. But while the exorcisms always put a stop to the paranormal activity, it only ever worked as a temporary fix. The most it ever did was stop it for about 3 years. I was so glad, for these reasons and more, when I managed to move out of that house. And there is literally no amount of money you could pay me to spend a night there by myself. This is my mom's story, but she is completely sane and I believe it. My parents went to South Carolina for a wedding. They stayed at some old plantation bed and breakfast spot. She was sleeping when she woke up all of a sudden. She had a cell phone plugged into the wall and was on her nightstand. There was a notification on the phone, so it was blinking. The female ghost was dressed in a full-on old formal dress, and she was fixated on the cell phone blinking light and was walking towards it. My mum said, "It's okay, it's just a phone." The ghost turned and made eye contact with my mum, then disappeared. I posted this somewhere else, so I just copied the text. This one time when I was little, I was laying in bed with my right ear buried in my pillow. I'm suddenly jolted awake by this roar that sounded like it was going directly into my right ear. I woke up startled and confused and began scanning my room for anything, as my mind was in almost full panic mode. When I looked to my right, I saw this little boy standing next to me. He was glowing blue, but that wasn't the first thing I noticed about him actually. He looked sad, and I remember feeling bad for him. After a minute, I tried to lean closer to him and even muttered out a faint "hey," but as I did, he disappeared. A few days later, I told this story to my mother, who then informed me that the people who owned the house before us had a son who died when he was 5 in a car accident. However, it wasn't near the house. I should also note now that our house was renovated since we moved in and a second floor was added. My current theory is that the boy finally found his way back home and realised that his old home was gone. He came to me because I was the new boy of the house. I used to work at a museum that was once a functional prison. Throughout my 8+ years working there, I have been pushed, slapped, bit, dragged and punched by unseen entities. I always had problems when I would go to lock up certain buildings at night because you never know what you would see coming around a corner. I went into the cell house once to turn off the lights, rounded the doorway to see a full-bodied apparition standing there in an inmate's uniform. A split second later, he vanished into thin air. There was a pretty notorious inmate who was involved in one of the riots, and his spirit would follow me around the grounds. One night, I was with a paranormal group, and we went into an area that we don't let the public visit because it's in disrepair, and we were screamed at to leave, and something snarled at me. It was not uncommon for me, or one of my co-workers, to have shadow people follow us around, and we would even have some poor visitors chased out of certain buildings like maximum security by such entities. I have a dozen stories about that place. Addendum: the absolute worst place to go in the facility was the tower. I went up there with a group once, and one of my co-workers was physically pinned to the wall by an unseen force. 3 huge men tried to pull them away from the wall and couldn't. That's how strong this thing was. It would only let my co-worker go when I started yelling at it. We went to leave and go down the stairs, which were pretty steep. I was bringing up the rear when I got a huge shove from behind that almost knocked me off my feet, and a voice screaming at me to
go away.
I've never been in a yelling match with a spirit before, but I ended up in one that night. My 4-year-old son has an imaginary friend he talks to when he's on the toilet. They'll have full-blown conversations. He'll tell his friend about his day, or what he's going to eat for dinner, or what happened on an episode of Paw Patrol, and then he'll even talk like he's hearing a conversation like, aha, ooh, aha, that's so cool. But doesn't like me coming near the toilet because this friend is a bit shy. He describes the friend as a tall, skinny man with a kind-looking face, which is weird because I've never heard him use that phrase. So one day he's on the toilet and we're trying to get out and into the car, and I'm calling out to my son to hurry up and does he need help. No, he tells me. The man is just telling me about a sad story. Don't come near us though because he's sad and shy, and if you get near the toilet he'll run away. I'm kinda in a rush and in no mood for this, so I walk down the hall and around to the toilet, and my son yells, "No, come back!" And I swear to this day I felt a gust of wind go by me, which in my hallway is impossible. My son is mad and said, "He's gone now. Good one, Dad." And the next second you can hear my front door slam shut. Only thing is, my front door wasn't open. I always keep it closed and locked even when we're home. I don't believe in ghosts, but that incident rocked me for a few days. This isn't a throwaway, and I know a bunch of friends who know my Reddit handle, so if you're an IRL friend and you just read my story, please don't talk to my wife about this, it freaks her out. This happened to me when I was 9, 2010. My friend in the neighbourhood found a Ouija board in his brother's stuff while he was away at college. He told me what it was and asked me if I wanted to play it with him. Trying to impress him, I said yes. We went into his room and we tried it out. Nothing happened and we were left disappointed. Later that week he called me and told me that he looked up how to use the board properly and wanted to give it another go. I agreed as I was more confident that nothing would happen. So we grabbed a bunch of scented candles and we placed them around the board and did the whole seance stuff. We asked the board if anyone was there, and it of course went to yes. We each thought the other was messing around, but we agreed to take it seriously because I didn't really care if it was a stupid joke. We asked the ghost what its name was and it spelled out Owen. My friend asked if it was a person, it went to no. We asked what it was and it spelled out demon. I then asked it to prove it. You know that call in the intro to Finding Bigfoot? Well, that's the closest thing to what we heard from the garage. Keep in mind, it was only us in the house. It scared the life out of us. We ran out of the house. We checked the garage. Nothing. Anyway, a few weeks go by and he tells me how he's having paranormal experiences. He feels like he's being watched whenever he's downstairs in the kitchen and living room. He feels someone sitting on the end of his bed every night. Every time he walks past the garage, he feels someone grab his wrist and pull it towards the garage. Whenever I went over, I always got the feeling that someone was looking at me from the ceiling. It was definitely unnatural. Then came the scariest part of all. We were at his house playing Army in his room while no one else was home, and we began to hear heavy footsteps downstairs. Except whatever was making it had hooves. Sounded like a full-grown horse was walking around downstairs. Then we heard someone begin to laugh and cough at the same time. My friend ran over and slammed the door shut and we hid. He hid under his bed while I hid in his closet. Then it sounded like someone began scratching his door with one big claw, like the ones raptors had on their big toe. He started crying and I was on the verge of tears. My friend yelled, "Leave us alone, Owen, you're scaring us." It began to stop and then we heard it run down the stairs. My friend got up and threw me out the closet and grabbed the Ouija board that was in there with me. He ran down the stairs, ripped the screen door off his gas fireplace, threw the thing in there, put the screen back on and went to turn it on. When he was about to turn it on, we heard a loud moan from the basement, which was right behind my friend. He flicked the fireplace on and the board began to burn. That was the end of that, and we played outside because he was too scared to go back into the house until his parents got home. His parents came home and saw that he'd burned his brother's Ouija board. They grounded him and threw the burnt board away. That was the end of the paranormal experiences in my friend's house. And that's why I will never take part in one of those games again. If you have enjoyed this video and these stories, please click the thumbs up button. If you have a ghost story of your own, please feel free to tell me and my subscribers all about it in the comments. If you think your friends and family would like this video, then please share it with them on social media using one of the icons below the video. Unless you're old school and want to copy and paste the URL into an email. Either way, clicking the like button, commenting and sharing are all very much appreciated, and that lets the YouTube algorithm know that this was a video that should be recommended. If you haven't done so already, please also click the subscribe button and then turn on all notifications by clicking the bell icon. That way, YouTube will tell you when a new video is loaded up. YouTube Analytics tells me that they notify 100% of the time a new video goes live for people with this enabled. I have two channels, this one and UK Paranormal Files, so please subscribe to both if you would like to see the full extent of my content, and a button to subscribe to each will appear shortly on the end screen. As always, all that's left for me to say is, thanks very much for watching.